The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for joining me for another Bengals recap show, live presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright. As always, appreciate you guys spending your Sunday evening with me, especially after such a disappointing game, I'd say. Well, not even game, outcome. Before we jump into the whole discussion of everything that took place, make sure you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. I first want to start off by saying hats off to the Kansas City Chiefs. Great game overall played by them, staying within themselves, extremely competitive game. I don't agree with the sentiment that it was rigged. I don't agree with the sentiment that the call shouldn't have been called necessarily. What I will say is I think that the outcry you see from a lot of people is just if you're going to make that call, let's make sure we're consistent. And that's not a Chiefs thing. That's not a Bengals thing. That's just across the NFL. That's a routine play that sort of happens when guys are going for the ball throughout the entire league. That happens on a regular basis. I love when someone put a tweet out. They said, if that is a PI, then every Hail Mary call essentially is PI, because there's similar things that kind of happen on those plays. Again, win, loss, draw, doesn't really matter at this point for me. At this point, it was just good to see the Bengals look like a competitive team, look like a team that was ready to compete seriously in the AFC and also take care of their business and potentially win in their division as well. Again, there was a lot of good football played out there on the Bengals side, and me personally, even though the Bengals didn't come up with the victory, I came away from that game feeling like the Bengals were the more talented team. They just didn't play like a cohesive unit, and that's what it takes. That's the NFL, all right? You have to make sure that you mind your P's and your Q's and go out there consistently and be on top of the game, because you can't afford mistakes, critical mistakes, being emotional in a pivotal matchup when you're going up against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, like Patrick Mahomes, right? There were a lot of calls to sort of point to that we could kind of get into. And I guess I'll start with there were some questionable calls in the red zone, like not going for two, right? That was something that I felt like the Bengals should have done, and maybe they wouldn't have found themselves in that situation. Again, hindsight is always 20/20. You could always look at that situation and say, hey, you know what? It didn't feel like they had a chance, but it actually felt like they had a chance. It felt like the Bengals controlled the entire game. It was really nice to see them, sort of get their playmakers involved. Some of the playmakers you guys heard us talk about in State of the Jungle or the Sitdown, players like Mike Gesicki, right? They got Mike Gesicki involved. Mike Gesicki was the leading receiver for the Bengals today. And, when we talked about his usage and what he could potentially bring to the offense, this is sort of what we envisioned. When a team is trying to take Jamar Chase away, you want to be able to go get to a guy that you feel comfortable with, a guy that you are excited about. It was cool to see that they gave Jermaine Burton opportunities out there as well. He had some really, really good reps, I would say. Won a couple of matchups. Didn't always get the ball thrown his way, but, it was really, really good to see that. And I think a lot of that comes to, hey, let's continue to build up that camaraderie, that chemistry with Joe Burrow. And I think that's something that is happening. Hats off to Andre Yoshivash, played a phenomenal game. Again, this is all without a guy like T. Higgins on the football field. So imagine how this offense can round into form when he is out on the field. The defense took a lot of, hits today. Obviously on the interior, already a depleted interior. Bengals defensive line struggled as well today with the loss of Sheldon Rankins. Obviously, B.J. Hill went out of the game as well. I saw them do some interesting things like move Sam Hubbard in at that spot, and try to generate some pass rush. Joseph Asai got some good run today. Like the way they used Akeem Davis Gaither, dropping him back into coverage, even coming in as an extra rusher at time. I think that there were some really, really positive, some really, really big things to take away from this game today from the Bengals. That if you're a Bengals fan, you probably feel like the sky is falling right now. You're probably looking at it like, woe is us. Can't believe we're 0-2. How do we build up from here? Week 1 was abysmal, right? Which is why we talked about starting fast, and the importance of it. Week 1 was abysmal. But let's be clear. You went on the road to Kansas City in week 2 against a team that just came off of a Super Bowl championship back to back, and everybody was down on you guys, and you outplayed them the entire game. Your quarterback respectfully looked like the better quarterback. There's a lot to take away from this game. And I'm not saying he is the better quarterback. I'm just saying in this game, he looked like the better quarterback. The Bengals looked like they were the better team, but they didn't look like the more disciplined team when it mattered most. And I think that's what sort of came back to kind of bite them in the ass. And this is what we talk about when we say, hey, you know what? You got to take it on the chin a little bit here. You just went through the Patriots, and then you faced the Chiefs, and now you're about to take on the Commanders, who are starting to put some things together. And now you right after them, you take on the Carolina Panthers, who don't look too great themselves. So while it looks like doom and gloom right here, the Bengals could be sitting back in 500 in 2 weeks here. But again, I think it's important that they take care of home first, right? They got to make sure that they win these games and they don't overlook any opponents. But I do think that they unlock some good things like the tight end usage, the most yardage that Joe Burrow has gotten out of the tight end position in a single game in his career. And I think I don't think that's by luck. I think that is, hey, you know what? You got the Panthers, you got the Commanders. There's going to be some ways you can unlock this offense even more. Hopefully you get T. Higgins back for such a pivotal matchup. And hopefully you get T. Higgins back for such a pivotal matchup, and this offense could actually look like it's rounding into form. But you got to be able to tip your hat to how the offense did look. It's tough to lose. No one wants to lose, right? Hell, you want to sit out there, you want to go undefeated if you possibly can. But if you are looking for the bright side of some things, the Bengals did look like the better team. And I think if the Bengals continue to round into form, this team could be playing deep into January. But again, it's really up to them to make sure that they don't overlook any opponents and they take it one game at a time. This is it sucks to lose. It sucks to lose. It sucks to lose all the time. And y'all know me, man. I'm the first to jump up on here and ridicule the coaching staff if that's necessary. And I think there are some opportunities for us to talk more in depth about that. Like I have some questions, obviously, about why Jordan Battle wasn't utilized. I have some questions about the logic of not going for 2 when you found yourself in a similar situation when it didn't work for you, essentially. I mean, there's so many different things I could look at from this coaching staff and say, hey, you know what? We could have done some things better, but that's football, right? No one is really going to always call a perfect game plan. There's always going to be things to criticize, always things to look at and be like, hey, we could get better. But overall, I'm proud of the way this team performed. Even for a guy like Dejon Anthony, who obviously y'all know I sat down with an interview with, and knowing him and how many talks him and I have had, even after our interview, this is a guy that's going to be this guy's going to be better for it afterwards. He's going to be better for it afterwards. This is a guy that's going to take this on the chin, and I know he's going to be hard on himself, but if I could offer up any words of encouragement, wisdom, just again, take it one game at a time. Never get too high, never get too low. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs during a rookie season, but one play doesn't make a whole career. So a lot more stuff to get into. Drop your questions down in the comments. I want to hear you all sort of let me know what your feelings are of the game. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel as well. But Daniel, what say you?
To be honest with you, Malik, I'm really 50-50. And the biggest takeaway I definitely had is that this team is still players in the AFC, right? And that just goes to the conversation that we were having with, the overall narrative that the mainstream media was pushing, and even rightfully so, right? After an 0-1 start, loss to the Patriots, it's fair to question, okay, what's the mental of this team? Where is this team going? But everything that I saw today showed me that this team is still up there with the elites. This team was a 4th and 15 away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's the part, to be honest with you, Malik, Obviously, winning this game would have helped a ton in the record, and being 1-1 is a lot better than being 0-2. But this still shows that this team, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that wasn't false confidence before this week. That wasn't BS that they were spewing out of their mouths, right? Jamar Chase on the interview said, before the week, hey, we're the better team. We know we're the best team and we got a good game plan. We're ready to go into it. And he lost by 1 point on a 4th and 15. And yes, the Chiefs could say the same thing, that they had a little, couple mistakes, but the Bengals went into Arrowhead, into opposing territory, and looked like the better team. Yes, they didn't win, but my biggest takeaway with this, guys, and for everybody watching, you guys can be confident in the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, there's a lot of things that do have to be fixed. Look at the defensive line. We can talk about the play calling, but all in all, I want a team, and this is kind of my viewpoint on things. I want a team that when the going gets tough, when they get into the playoffs, you got an actual shot to win the damn Super Bowl, and this team does. And when you look at a lot of other teams in the NFL, I don't think I could say that. We'll get into some conversation, but the Ravens look like a completely different team than this Cincinnati Bengals team. A lot of these other teams that are showing up, even go look at the Chargers, go look at some of these other teams in AFC. The Cincinnati Bengals are big time players, and they got to go they got to go home, take care of business with the Commanders, take care of business with the Panthers. But this is a team with a healthy Joe Burrow right now. I'm super confident in them heading into, the latter parts of the season. So it's just going to be a thing. Take it 1 week at a time. And I'm just really, really happy with the performance, because this, could have gone a completely different way today, Malik, right? This could have gone, hey, if you would have shown up like showed up against the New England Patriots, it would have been a bad game, but this team showed up ready. And when people were discussing what the Bengals looked like after the Patriots game, there was a lot of conversation about the Super Bowl run being a fluke, about Joe Burrow being done, about Zach Taylor, potentially being fired, about Jamar Chase should be out of Cincinnati, shouldn't want to re-sign with Cincinnati. And I think today kind of showed, and it should have at least shown everybody who's watching the game, that this team is still for real. And like I said, looking at the weapons, Mike Gesicki, Jermaine Burton, when this team is fully rolling, they're going to be tough to stop. I would definitely like to see, a little bit more consistency with the running game. You got Zach Moss, who had a couple nice runs. Chase Brown, I would like to see him a little bit more. But all in all, when everything's clicking on all cylinders, you had your tight end, Mike Gesicki, as your number one target today. That's not going to happen the rest of the season. You're going to have Jamar Chase. You're going to have T. Higgins. There's so many different weapons. And I think that's what also gives me a lot of confidence, Malik, is just looking at the weapons on this team. This is a team I wouldn't want to face in the playoffs. And when I look at the Buffalo Bills, when I look at the Houston Texans, when I look at these other teams like the Baltimore Ravens, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are currently 2-0, I'm confident in the Cincinnati Bengals, what they got going on right now. So the record may not be good, but
let me just say this really quickly. Like, you think about it. When I jumped on here, a couple of weeks back when we were in the off season, I said, I believe Mike Gesicki is going to offer up, even though he's not your standard, obviously traditional tight end, always inline blocking. He brought here because of his receiving threat, his receiving prowess. I said, this is a guy that I believe is going to put up some of the best tight end numbers we've seen in Cincinnati probably since like a Tyler Eifert, to be honest with you. And I got a lot of heat for that. And you look at what that guy was able to do today. I think you are going to see a lot of games like that from Mike Gesicki, because a lot of teams are going to zero in on a Jamar Chase, zero in on a T. Higgins, and they're going to leave Mike Gesicki as an afterthought. That's what having a Mike Gesicki allows you to do, a capable tight end room that allows you to do this thing. When their teams are trying to take you out of your best receivers, you could really zero in on some of your other guys, right? Guys like Mike Gesicki, guys like even a Drew Sample, who showed up in a lot of big ways today. There's definitely some things we need to work on. There are some things that the Bengals need to work on if they want to, make it to the playoffs and make this deep run. But I feel like this team's best ball is still ahead of them. That's what I'll say. I think the biggest thing is you want to see Joe Burrow get over the hurdle of obviously his wrist ligament injury. You wanted to see him push the ball down the field. You wanted to see guys really come into their own, step into their own on this offense. And when I turned on the tape and you watch a guy like Jermaine Burton get so acclimated and comfortable in the offense as he's trying to learn the playbook and get that portion down. And you see guys come on strong like Andre Yoshivas for 2 touchdowns today, even making a play, realizing, hey, Joe Burrow, my quarterback's in trouble. Let me break off my route early and try to see if I can make something happen to him. This team is going to be a different Bengals team in the next 3 weeks than what we're talking about right here. And I think that's the positive to look at. Listen, the Chiefs got the Bengals early, but even in doing so, the Chiefs did not look like the better team out there today. And I think that's something you could kind of hang your hat. And maybe the Chiefs, not even maybe, I think the Chiefs will look different later in the season as well. But I definitely think there's some things that this team could lean on more. Like I would like to see the usage of Chase Brown be more consistent early on, allowing him to get acclimated to the game plan, because he's a guy that was rushing like a bat out of hell. He's a guy that was hitting the holes hard. And sometimes at points, I got to go back and really, really watch the film. Obviously, the game just ended probably a little less, probably about an hour ago or so. But there were points when you were watching that game, and I look at it and I said, hey, I felt like Zach Moss wasn't seeing the field properly. There were points where I felt like Zach Moss was missing the hole when it was open for him. And, that's okay. But I feel like there are some positives you could take away. You can't win everything in life, right? But there were some things you could take away. The things you could take away is Joe Burrow seemed confident, okay? Outside of the fumbling, outside of him throwing it when he could have ran it in for a potential 8 yards or maybe even a touchdown, there are some things to take away. Joe Burrow looked like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looked like the confident guy that we know. There's some things you could take away from this game, and you feel, hey, man, maybe later on down the road, this team could really be something special. But they have to just play within themselves and stay within themselves. They can't get overzealous. They can't beat themselves as well, man. You know what I mean? So those are my thought process when I saw it. I'll be the first to sit up here and ridicule the coaching staff, ridiculing play calling, and there's going to be time and place for all of that stuff. Obviously, got State of the Jungle, got the Sit Down with Malik Wright morning show tomorrow. There's so much stuff to kind of get into, so much stuff to talk about. I think that there's a lot of positives to take away. The offensive line looked good. The defensive line, Trey Hendrickson in particular, were still making life hell for Patrick Mahomes. I saw Joseph Osai, a guy who I personally had a lot of questions about, go out there and get some pressure and make some things happen. Make Patrick Mahomes feel uncomfortable in the pocket, make him step up. There was a lot of things to take away. Again, this team's got to get healthy, especially in the interior of the defensive line. Really curious to see what happens with Sheldon Rankins and BJ Hill long-term outlook. But again, I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this game. And I hear you, Pepe address. He said champions win, so I disagree with you. All right, man, you could disagree, and that's fine. You're well within your right to disagree. But here's what I will say. Let me know when a champion who you've seen hoist the Lombardi Trophy or go deep into the playoffs. Let me know if you've ever seen any of those teams lose. That's what I'll say. You can be doom and gloom and be ready to throw fire and all that kind of stuff like that, and you're well within your right. Again, it sucks to lose 0-2. That's why I sat on here last week and I said that loss to the Patriots was it was almost unforgivable. It was one of those things you just can't make happen. But I'm not ready to just throw this whole thing up personally. I think that a lot of from coming from where we were week 1 to where we are right now, this is the team you were hoping to see week 1. You didn't see this team week 1, you saw it week 2, and you saw it against the defending world champions. And guess what? For the majority of the game, they outplayed the defending world champions. Need to do a better job of closing it out and making it work for you. And maybe the personnel situations need to get better. And trust me, the personnel situations, in my personal opinion, need to get better. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are definitely a lot of positives to take away. And I think once we allow the anger to settle in, to me, that was me, the anger, the annoyance. That was me last week losing to the New England Patriots and Jacoby Brissett. For me, losing to the defending Super Bowl champions, I just don't, that's just my thing, man. Daniel, what else say you, man?
Yeah, I got a couple more things. I think one of the biggest takeaways, Malik, and this is kind of goes to, if you guys are UFC fans, yesterday, Sean O'Malley, the champion, lost. And a lot of the conversation was Merab made Sean O'Malley look normal. I think the Bengals made Patrick Mahomes look normal today. And I say that statement with full confidence. And I say that statement, Malik, and everybody watching, that not to take away from Patrick Mahomes being a great quarterback, but today he did look normal. He did look like a good quarterback, but he didn't look exceptional. The dude threw 2 interceptions. One interception was over the middle, which is, if we're being critical, was a very bad interception. The other was a play that Cam Taylor-Britt made one of the plays of the year. And then when you look at the rest of the entire game, Malik, we heard a lot about Xavier Worthy. And yes, he is an explosive weapon. The Bengals didn't allow him to have a huge play. One end around was nice, but he wasn't an elite player today. He was good. And that was my biggest takeaway is Lou Anarumo. Yes, the Bengals do have to do a lot better job of focusing on the run game, but the Chiefs played a different game against the Bengals than they do everybody else. And I think that should be something of confidence for Bengals fan guys is this Chiefs team, whether people like it or not, they respect the Bengals and they know that they are the force that is going to probably meet them in the playoffs. And that's what gives me confidence is this Chiefs team is a different team than they are against other teams. And like I said, Patrick Mahomes was good today, but the dude threw for 150 yards, 2 interceptions. And when you look at his weapons, besides that one big play to Rashee Rice on the left side where he scored the touchdown, it was just a lot. It was a tough game for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So that was one of my other takeaways.
I agree. It was definitely a rough game for Pat Mahomes, but it's respectfully, it's what I expected. It's what Lou Anarumo has done his entire career against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback. The pretty much everyone's best quarterback in the league. And I for all the right reasons. This guy has won MVPs. This guy has won Super Bowls. This guy has done it at the highest level. I just think that right now, when you look at this Bengals football team, it's not all doom and gloom. I don't think that we should be ready to march downtown to Paycor with pitchforks. I don't believe that. I think that this team shows you a lot of what they're capable of. And more importantly, I think if you're a Bengals fan, you're hopeful. You're hopeful. You're not walking away from this saying, you're going to get crushed. All week, all I heard from national pundits, from friends that I talk to, friends in the media, is the Bengals are going to get crushed by the Kansas City Chiefs. And, my return to that was, hey, this is a Bengals team that has always showed up against Kansas City Chiefs. This is a Bengals team that has always answered the call. And this was no different. Bengals showed up. Bengals look like the better team. Bengals controlled the game. And guess what? At the end, the Bengals fell short. Stupid penalties cost the Bengals. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Was the referees a little trigger happy? Sure. Do I hate when a referee crew allows their whistle to make the final call of the game? 100%. But at the end of the day, all that BS aside, I think I walk away from this game feeling hopeful. I feel hopeful, Daniel. I feel like this Bengals team is gonna. I think this Bengals team is gonna be going a little bit of a run here now. All right, they got knocked down a little bit. They got punched in the mouth. They had a victory, snatched away from them by the Kansas City Chiefs. What's next? Right? What's next? You got a rookie coming into town in Jaden Daniels for your Ring of Honor game. Then you take on Bryce Panther-led Carolina Panthers, right? You've got some good stuff ahead of you. And I just think it's important to just stay within yourself and never get too high, never get too low. Always remain even-keeled. Remaining even-keeled is such a huge part of this whole thing. And that's something that I just can't stress enough. I want to get to some of the questions down in the comment section. You guys, do me a favor. Drop your questions down in the comment section. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. I also want to remind everybody that this week, we'll be giving away 2 tickets to a lucky Bengals fan to attend the Bengals versus Commanders game. More information will come tomorrow on the Sit Down with Malik Wright. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. But Daniel, let's get to some questions. I want to hear it all. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. If you guys think I'm a stupid sack of shit and I don't know what I'm talking about, I want to hear about it right now. I want to hear you guys' opinions on the game, on Zach Taylor, on Joe Burrow, on the future for the remainder of the season of the Cincinnati Bengals team. Let me hear it.
I think it's only right if we start off with our residential Chiefs fan, Sean Brennan. We
My
appreciate
guy, Sean,
you.
congrats, man. A win's a win, no matter how ugly it looked, no matter how much your quarterback looked like Mac Jones out there at points. A win's a win, brother. Congrats.
That's crazy.
I'm messing around.
He said, this was the chance to get the Chiefs, and you guys blew it. If you think the Chiefs won't be better if they play again, you're fooling yourself. You can say the Bengals were better. They lost. I just kind of wanted your response.
I mean, listen, Sean could talk all the crap he wants, man. Like, he's right. No matter what I'm saying, the Chiefs won. I think I made no qualms about it. I said, hey, listen, the Chiefs won. The Chiefs took advantage of the Bengals' stupid mistakes, of us not being emotionally correct. But in the same token of you saying, if I think that the Chiefs aren't going to be better. Do you really think the Bengals aren't going to be better? This is a Bengals team without T. Higgins. This is a Bengals team without T. Higgins. This is a Bengals team without Chris Jenkins, who they drafted to be the interior guy. This is a Bengals team with BJ Hill going out early. This is a Bengals team with Sheldon Rankins going out early. This is a Bengals team that if you think in week 2 you got the Bengals best, I got a bridge to sell you in Mexico. And Sean, I don't have a bridge to sell you in Mexico, but what I do offer up to you, my friend, as I say, touche, it was a good victory. And Gary Jealous and I agree. DJ Reader isn't walking through the door, and I think we all can agree upon that. They're gonna miss a guy like DJ Reader, but you can't complain and we can't bitch, moan, and complain and say, hey, DJ Reader's not walking through the door. Woe is us. Figure it out. That's what the best teams do. The best teams find a way to figure it out. Simple as that. They're depleted on the interior of the defensive line. So again, we can sit up here and say this and say that, but the fact of the matter is the better team doesn't always win. And the reason why I could say how can I say the Bengals are the better team when they lost? They controlled the clock. They shut down the Chiefs' offense majority of the game. They made your weapons look extremely average. Travis Kelce had 1 catch the entire game. Xavier Worthy had 2 catches for 17 yards. I mean, we could go on. Rashee Rice was productive. What do you mean when I say, how could I say they are the better? The Bengals were the better team. The Bengals were the better team out there. By all metrics, if you're pulling out the stats and you're looking at it, the Bengals look like they were the better team. On paper, it looked like they were the better team. When you're watching the game, they look like they were the better team. Joe Burrow played like the better quarterback. Guess what? They fell short. You have to play 3 phases of football: offense, defense, and special teams. And then you also have to keep your emotions in check. That's the next thing. That's what championship teams do. They keep it together, right? That's what championship teams do. They keep it together. They stay disciplined, and they don't beat themselves. And I won't disrespect the Chiefs and say that the Chiefs were whatever, but I'm sorry. Allowing a 2-16 is beating yourselves in a lot of ways. So you can feel how you feel. Daniel, let's keep it to Bengals fans, please. I want to answer the Bengals faithful questions. Because I mean, unless I'm getting chirped at by Chiefs, we could do that. Sure, we could do, but unless you're asking a real question, I'd rather save this for people with serious questions.
Of course, just want to get to that topic. Sticking with the defensive line, do you think Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson will make much of a difference to the defensive line?
Yes. Not McKinley. I don't know what McKinley Jackson offers up. We haven't really gotten to see him yet. We know he was brought in to be sort of a run stuffer here in Cincinnati. Chris Jenkins shows some promise. I believe Chris Jenkins is going to be a good guy for the Bengals as he progresses through his career. But again, I think it's one of those things where you just got to you got to see it. You got to see it come to life.
We got a question. It was about Andre Yoshivas from our guy Benjamin Harrison. We appreciate you. Just overall, what was your thoughts on his performance? 2 touchdowns.
I thought that Andre Yoshivas showed a lot of promise. I thought he did a lot of great things, and you started to see a lot of the flashes of why people raved about him in the preseason and training camp of what he potentially could bring to this offense. Sort of the way he just went about his business was a certain level of consistency, and I thought it was very, very impressive. And I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to continue to emerge in this offense.
A question from Victoria Mitchell and from a lot of other people is about Jordan Battle. Is he that bad, or why aren't we seeing more from Jordan Battle?
I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna ask around about that because this is to be quite honest with you, this is quite baffling to me. This is a guy in Jordan Battle that showed a lot of promise, and I know what he brought to Alabama. I know what he brought to the Bengals last year. I think that there needs to be some transparency here and trying to figure out why that guy isn't playing a bigger role. But I'm sure Lou has his reasons as well.
We had a question from Alex and from a lot of people discussing the defensive line. Why is Sam Hubbard still playing? Overall, what's your thoughts on Sam Hubbard today?
I thought Sam Hubbard looked a lot better this week than he did last week. We know he's battling back, trying to get to 100%. I think he showed a lot of promise as well from the run game. But I think that Sam Hubbard could look a little bit different when Myles Murphy is back out there. Because I think that's a guy that's going to be able to spell Sam Hubbard and kind of give Sam Hubbard a breather because Sam Hubbard isn't that true pass rusher that we're looking for him to be. But I thought he looked a lot better in the run game.
Question from Ashton Gaup. He said, hey, Malik, I was excited for Eric All Jr. this offseason and thought he looked good in the snaps today. Do you expect to see him more in the offensive scheme after his play today?
Yeah, I think that guy is emerging. I think that guy's emerging through and through, and I think he potentially could be the tight end of the tight end of the future, one of the tight ends of the future here at Cincinnati. I still want to see how Tanner McLaughlin looks. Like to see that guy over Tanner Hudson, but again, overall, I thought he showed a lot of promise.
Switching over to our guy Jermaine Burton, I
Mhm.
think it's important that we have this discussion. People are asking, why is Trent Irwin still ahead of Burton and Jones in terms of game reps? And overall, what's your thoughts on Jermaine Burton today?
I mean, in the words of Drake, riddles that I cannot seem to solve. I mean, it's one of those things where I just think that Trent Irwin is a guy that you know what you're getting a hard worker, guy who's done it before, and he has the game plan down to a T. I think it's also a thing of he's built up that chemistry with Joe Burrow, so you feel very, very good about that guy. That being said, Jermaine Burton's better than a lot of these guys on this team, and he is he's going to make a name for himself and carve out a role for himself very, very shortly in in Cincinnati, and I think he's going to be a very, very good. So,
Switching over to the offensive line, there were
mhm,
some questions today about Trent Brown. Some
mhm,
people saw him falling over.
yeah.
Gary Jellison said early Trent Brown looks sloppy. When Mims gets healthy, he's coming for the right tackle spot. Do you agree with that sentiment? Overall, what's your
No,
thoughts on the right
I
tackle?
think Trent Brown would have to look colossally horrible to lose his job, and I also think it would take an injury as well for that to happen. I think Trent Brown has been very up and down a little bit to start, but I thought that the good plays were the good plays. You saw him stand Chris Jones up a couple of times throughout that game. Listen, it's easy to sort of like pinpoint on the offensive line at points when a guy is struggling, but I saw them move Chris Jones away from Trent Brown at points, and they moved him right at Cordell Volson, and then Cordell Volson started to struggle. And this is a guy in Cordell Volson who looked great last week. So I just think that speaks to the greatness of Chris Jones and who he is as a player. But I think all in all, I think that was a lot of positives to take away from Trent Brown's game today.
We have some questions about the Bengals offensive line on the rest of the side.
Mhm.
How would you say the offensive line performed today? And are you confident in the unit?
I think that so here's what I'll say. I think that Joe Burrow's processing his clock has sped up significantly. Um, I think that sometimes his clock is so sped up that it hurts the offensive line at points because there are times where Joe Burrow has more time to throw than he actually thinks, and then he kind of just speeds up and steps up in the pocket or looks to roll out a lot sooner when he has more time. He was better about it today, but there were still points today in which it felt like he didn't have a good feel of what was going on around him.
We get a question from Andrew Woods. He's asking about Jamar Chase.
Mhm.
Do you think the Jamar Chase contract situation is affecting him on the field at all?
Mm. I mean, I think that's a good question. Maybe it could be. I don't think the contract necessarily thing is. I think more so the lack of looks he got was affecting him. The lack of targets he was getting sort of affected him. Again, I'll say Jamar Chase is a guy that I feel like you have to allow him a chance to get into the game. You can't just not throw to him for 3 quarters or 2 quarters or whatever, and then finally start to throw to him. This is a guy that, especially when he's going up against Kansas City Chiefs, there's a little bit of ego, I believe, involved there and a little bit of a chippiness there because that's a team that he doesn't like and they don't like him. And, obviously, if he's a guy that's not getting his looks and not getting his targets, he's going to start to feel like maybe those chirps that he's getting from them are going to speak a little louder, and they're probably like, hey, we're locking up, we're doing this XYZ, you're trash, but whole time he's just not getting the looks. But guess what, people won't look into the intricacies of it. They'll just look at the final stats at the end and say, hey, you didn't do anything against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that that's a little bit of a shot to the ego.
Question from Miss Fick 85.
Mhm.
Hey Malik, do you believe that this 0-2 Bengals team is better than the other seasons where the Bengals started 0-2? I believe that they are.
Yes, I agree. I do agree. I think that this 0-2 team, especially the team we saw today, is a team that we believe that they're going to be throughout the entire season. And I think this is the team that we choose to believe will show up game in and game out. Here's what I will say. I think that Bengals football team that showed up today shows up any other week. I think that the Bengals walk away with victory a lot more than they walk away with losses. But again, that's easier said than done. I could easily say that with a mic 'cause I'm not out there playing or scheming up for some of these teams. But I just felt like this team looked like the team that we saw in the AFC Championship.
Question from Jess Shrek
Mhm.
said, do you think that the Ravens could go 0-4 since they started 0-2 as their next two games are the Cowboys and the Bills?
Very, very, very much so could. I don't think that they would. I don't think that the Cowboys made you saw anything in the Cowboys today that made you feel like they'd be able to just um run roughshod over the Ravens. Ravens gonna be a tough team. Ravens are gonna roll over for anybody. But I do think that media report coming out of the guy saying, "Oh, the Raiders are going to get killed by Lamar," and the Ravens kind of added fuel to the fire and made the Raiders want to play with a little certain level of chippiness, especially when the Ravens are a team that if you're going to get them, you got to get them early on. I think that this team continues to build up as the season goes on, and I think that they'll be tough throughout the entire season.
Our guy Parker Blake's got a question. He's asking about Chase Brown. He said, "Do you think that Chase Brown deserves more volume, receiving, rushing, or both?"
I think both. I think that guy needs more opportunities. I think that there's a way in which you could allow him to start the game and incorporate Zach Moss at periods and periodically. I think Zach Moss to me is an upgrade over Samaje Perine, who we had here in Cincinnati before, and I believe that Chase Brown, you're hopeful that his style of a more efficient running, and as he gets stronger throughout the game, fits a little bit better than Joe Mixon.
We got a question from I forgot who it was, Josh Holland. He said, "Do you think that we can trade for a defensive tackle, being that the Bengals defensive tackle room is depleted with the injuries, Sheldon Rankins, Chris Jenkins, and a couple more, BJ Hill in them?"
I mean, I like to think that a team, if a team makes a defensive tackle available, you got to ask yourself why a good defensive tackle of that, because to be honest with you, you're not hoping for an average guy. You're hoping for a guy that can help come in and actually contribute and be a key contributor to this defensive line. And I just don't know if you're getting that out there right now. I don't think you're getting out unless you're willing to give up some serious capital for a guy. Maybe a guy is on a team that's not preparing to compete or contend. But you got to ask yourself as well, who's really doing that in week 3, right? Who's really giving up on a player? So early into the season. I'm not sure if you'll be able to get a guy in here that's going to translate. I think your best course of action is hoping that some of your guys get healthy. You can get Chris Jenkins and the rookie you drafted, McKinley Jackson, ready to go here sooner rather than later.
Once again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you guys drop them down below. We're answering all you guys' questions right now. We had a question from Nick. He said, "Are the Bengals the worst screening team in the NFL?"
I feel like this is a story that we have question we have every year. I don't even know if it's necessarily the worst screening team. I just feel like they just don't go to it enough. And then when they go to it, it's just so obvious. I think that's the thing that hurts them. I guess that speaks to them being worse or being terrible. Again, I'm not ready to say that one way or the other, but I would say this offense will continue to transform and look different as the season progresses. It's a lot of week 2 overreactions, though.
Our question from our guy Akil Great, and he's talking about the final play. Do you think that it would have been a penalty if he would have intercepted the ball instead of him just batting down the ball?
That is a good question. The rule books state that if a player on the defensive back is looking to make a play on the ball, it really shouldn't be called, but it's all subject to each crew's eye and what they saw. Regardless, DA did get there a little early, and I think that's what the referee was calling. And for a crew that was already probably feeling a little certain way about how the Bengals were kind of conducting themselves in terms of going at them, maybe they had a vendetta. I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate or anything like that. I'll just say that I think it just needs to be consistent. I just hope that call is called for every team around the league.
Pete Crawley and a lot of other people are asking the question about both Jordan Battle and Dejon Anthony. Like, why is Anthony out snapping Battle, and why is Anthony on the field at the end of the game?
Questions I do not have the answer to. And I see my guy Landon Van Steen ask, Malik, as a Bama fan, thoughts on Battle's usage. Very, very, very annoying. I think that Battle should be out there more than Von Bell, if you ask me. That's just my thoughts.
Question from Alex. And once again, if you guys have any other questions, make sure you guys drop them down below. Looking at Trent Brown, do you believe that he has any sort of trade value? And would the Bengals even consider a trade for Trent Brown?
I don't think so. I think Trent Brown's here, guys. But yes, I'm sure that guy has a value there. This is an offensive league. This is an offensive league where everyone is always clamoring for offensive tackles. You can never get enough good offensive line. I think every league, every team across, multiple football leagues and sports are always looking for a good offensive lineman. And if you can find him, you're gonna try to find him and leave no stone unturned.
When you're looking at this whole game, Malik, Chiefs versus Bengals, what would you say and who would you say were some of the biggest bright spots from the Bengals, biggest positives from the game today?
Joe Burrow, Mike Gesicki, Jermaine Burton looked good. He won on a couple of reps. He just didn't. I mean, Joe Burrow looked like he was going to go to him a couple of times and kind of just pulled the ball down. The cornerback room, right? The cornerback room. You even see DJ Turner come up with a pick. I think it got called back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But DJ Turner came up with a pick. The cornerback room, the defensive back room, you feel very, very good about. And Akeem Davis Gaither, man, how about that guy, huh? How about that guy showing up? So I think those are some guys, some bright spots.
We have a good statement real quick from Nathan Falk. He said, I don't know what the snap count was today, but I think Kelsey's stat line is probably why Dejon Anthony was out there today, trying to make the point that Kelsey 1 reception for 4 yards.
Listen, Dejon Anthony is a Swiss Army knife. He's a guy where you don't know if he's a corner, if he's a safety. But here's what you do know. You know, you're getting a guy out there, man, when you put him out there. We saw him out there with Hunter Henry one play last week, and he was very physical with them. I think Dejon's going to be a very good player for Cincinnati. A lot like how the broadcast crew was speaking about him, raving about him. I think his hard work. Like, understand, for him to be a 7th round pick and get on the football field, that speaks a lot to how he approaches his business and how he approaches each and every single day, and why this coaching staff raves about him and why he's in the position that he's in. If you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel while you are here. I'll be live tomorrow as well, discussing this through a lot more in detail after I have a chance to really sit down and watch some stuff. But I'll be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. as well. Dan, let's get to 2 more questions before we head out of here.
We got a question from, once again, our guy, Keely Great. He said, what's your thoughts on Dax Hill today? Obviously, he had that big 2-point conversion swat down. What was your overall thoughts on how he played today?
I think Dax Hill is going to be a very good corner in this league for the Bengals. I think kudos to the coaching staff and kudos to Dax Hill for being so open to a change and fully embracing it. And I think that that's a guy that, I kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago. I said there are going to be some times where probably he gives up stuff. But I think that over time, I think he'll really settle into this spot.
And final question, or we have a couple funny ones, but overall, just what was your takeaways? We can do this one from Alex. He said, how serious do you think that Rankins and BJ Hill's injuries are?
I think that BJ Hill's, I'm more so worried about BJ Hill's than I am Sheldon Rankins. I just think the timeliness of Sheldon Rankins probably kept him out of the game. But BJ Hill, I am concerned about that a little bit. Not anything I heard. It just seems like it's a lot more serious. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank y'all for seriously for spending your Sunday evening with me. I almost said Wednesday evening. I thought it was State of the Jungle. I'll be back live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Live for the Sit Down with Malik Wright morning show presented by the Right Way Sports Network. Tomorrow we'll also be announcing our 2-ticket giveaway for Bengals versus Commanders game, and I'm really, really excited about that game. I'm excited to see who's going to wind up becoming the winner. We really, really do appreciate y'all for spending your Sundays with us. And as our guy Honest Fan says, thank you for the therapy session. I'll always be here, come hell or high water, wins or losses. We'll talk it through as a community. And I'm just excited that you guys support me. I really do appreciate y'all. And again, I'll be back tomorrow morning live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if you ain't got anything going on, you get that break from work, come join us. Come talk it through. Let's have this discussion.